Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Just remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. I was very interested in hearing Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez discuss who they thought won their first two fights, right? I had that opportunity when I watched Pacquiao Marquez 24/7 for their third fight. And lo and behold, both guys, of course, think they won both fights, but Marquez was interesting. Marquez honestly says that he thought that he edged Manny Pacquiao in the first fight, but that in the second fight, he thought he won that fight by 2 to 3 rounds. I'm on record here on YouTube as saying I thought Marquez won both of those fights, right? So I went back and I looked at the CompuBox numbers on that rematch because I was struck by the fact that Marquez actually says on film, that he thought he did better in the rematch, right? So I looked at those numbers, and the CompuBox numbers are eye-opening. Manny Pacquiao over 12 rounds throws more than 100 more punches than Marquez. But interestingly enough, Marquez landed more punches. Much higher connect ratio. Not only that, Manny Pacquiao actually threw less power shots than Marquez did in the second fight. Now, I think Manny Pacquiao wins this third fight. I was struck by what Alex Ariza and Freddie Roach both said. Both of those guys basically said that they expect Manny Pacquiao to win this fight by KO, right? I don't believe Manny Pacquiao, who threw more than 100 more jabs than Marquez in their second fight, which took place at 130. I don't expect Manny Pacquiao to come out throwing a lot of jabs. Not only that, we all slow down with age. Manny Pacquiao at 32 has slowed down a bit. In fact, both of these fighters have slowed down a bit. And Manny Pacquiao now is really more of a fighter who stays in front of you. He doesn't move around as much as he did at 126 and 130, right? The first fight's at 126. You'll notice Manny Pacquiao's all over the ring. Contrast that with the Shane Mosley fight, where Manny Pacquiao is really in front of Shane, but doesn't really seem able to leap in and finish Shane, even though he has Shane backing up the majority of the fight after he knocks Shane Mosley down. Now, this fight is being fought at 144 pounds, 14 pounds more than the rematch. And the fact that Alex Ariza, on film, literally in 24/7, says that he doesn't see what Marquez can do to keep Manny Pacquiao off of him. And the fact that Freddie Roach says on camera that he expects a knockout tells you that Manny Pacquiao, in my opinion, is going to fight a different fight than he fought in the rematch. I actually think he's going to come into this third fight literally trying to close the show. I was a bit shaken up by the episode because I looked at Marquez's sparring partners. These guys, okay, they're southpaws. That's about the only thing they have in common with Manny Pacquiao. Whenever the camera showed Manny Pacquiao sparring sessions, it was hard to keep track of the hand speed. Pacquiao's hand speed is blinding. He's sparring with Jorge Linares, who has blinding hand speed, right? Whenever they showed the Marquez cam, Marquez looked fast compared to his sparring partners. And keep in mind, The one constant in these Manny Pacquiao Marquez matches is the noticeable gap in hand speed between the two. Right? Manny Pacquiao has blinding hand speed. Marquez is much more methodical and much slower. Marquez even says, and his trainer, Nacho Beristain, concedes that when Marquez went out there for the first fight, Beristain and Marquez thought they were going to give Manny Pacquiao a boxing exhibition. And on film, Marquez says that he was completely stunned by Manny Pacquiao's speed. I think this fight is riveting because Manny Pacquiao is comfortable at 144 and has fought, at 150 against Antonio Margarito, and has fought, of course, in the 140s against Joshua Clottey, Miguel Cotto, and because Marquez, when he moved up in weight, looked awful against Floyd Mayweather, and more importantly, because Marquez is getting hit more than he was as a young man, getting dropped hard by Michael Casitas. And I believe that Casitas fight is the Rosetta Stone for this fight. I believe this third fight's going to be a tale of two fights. Marquez is going to have, in my opinion, a very hard time. I mean, very hard time making it to the fourth round of this fight. Right? I believe Manny Pacquiao is just better acclimated to the weight. He's much faster than Marquez. You think about their worst moments recently. Manny Pacquiao in the Antonio Margarito fight, before Pacquiao broke Margarito's orbital bone. Margarito actually has him up on the ropes. He's throwing punches. Manny Pacquiao doesn't really seem able to clinch. Looked a little bit out of his element up against the ropes. That's about the worst moment of Manny Pacquiao's in the ring in, I'd say, the last 2 years. Right? Pacquiao, of course, goes on to dominate that fight. Whereas Marquez has had some pretty bad moments. Right? I thought he was going to get stopped by Casitas. Watch my video on the Casitas fight. You're going to see that I actually, in that video, before this fight was announced, talked about how I thought Marquez was slowing down. I think any gambler has to consider, even though Manny Pacquiao hasn't gotten a lot of stoppages above 140, I think any gambler has to consider, since he's really fighting a lightweight, a 135er, any gambler has to consider the distinct possibility that Manny Pacquiao is just too big and just too fast and just too strong for Marquez at this stage of the game. Right? If Marquez can make it through the first 4 rounds, the first third of the fight, then all bets are off. Because even though Pacquiao has great stamina, the CompuBox numbers show that Marquez methodically can beat Pacquiao in terms of punch efficiency and power shots. Right? He actually throws more power shots than Pacquiao. He lands more power shots than Pacquiao. They land about the same amount of jabs, even though Marquez throws 100 fewer jabs than Pacquiao. Right? Even though he throws 100 fewer punches than Pacquiao, and even though his punches are power shots, he actually lands more shots than Pacquiao in that rematch. I think Manny Pacquiao wins the fight, but I will say that the CompuBox numbers are surprising. I think Pacquiao is going to get off to his customary fast start. He dropped Marquez in the first round of the first fight. He dropped Marquez in the third round of the rematch. Here, we'll see if Marquez, who got dropped early by Michael Casitas, and people forget, he also got beaten up early in the first fight against Juan Diaz. We'll see if Marquez is able to survive the early round so that he can then show his technical superiority later. Also, I thought another big part of 24/7 was when Nacho Beristain actually says that Manny Pacquiao is much more technically refined now than he was when they fought the first two. Now, I'm not sure if I buy that, right? I still have questions about Manny Pacquiao's right hand from distance, right? I know Manny has said in interviews that he's working on that right hand. I just haven't seen it from distance. Also, I have questions as to whether Manny Pacquiao can vary the script. It seemed to me that Shane Mosley knew how to keep Pacquiao off of him for the latter part of that fight, even after Mosley got knocked down, right? But the one thing I will say is, I thought it was an interesting insight when Beristain said they would prefer Pacquiao to be a more refined fighter, because apparently when he was, in Beristain's words, a wildcat, it was impossible to figure out where the punches were coming from. And that's one of the big mysteries in boxing. What do you do when you have a raw fighter whose rawness makes him great? Aren't you hurting him a little bit when you refine his technique a bit, right? Would Shane Mosley have been able to survive, just go the distance, not win the fight, but just survive, if he was fighting a younger, less predictable Manny Pacquiao? I thought 24/7 was fascinating stuff. I hope everyone gives that a look. I think Manny Pacquiao wins the third fight, but I will say that, if Marquez could make it to the start of the fifth round, that's when it'll get interesting for me. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com.